Hello, hello, and welcome to Rory's Brainworks, where we get creative and see if it works. Today, we're going to be talking about tying up objects, tangible things, inanimate tools, and what have you, much like I did with the YouTube silver award button I got going on up there. Ah yes, so nice. Hanging in its beautiful hishikarada. But before we do, we must first talk about safe, sane, and consensual safety. Be sure to have some safety shears with you at all times. You can always get a new rope, can't get a new life. And consensual, me, Marie, and Crochet Rory are all consenting adults. Communication is key. Now, before we take a deep dive into tying up tangible object things, we must first thank my sponsor, Knothead Nylon.
Knothead Nylon is the destination for all your premium nylon rope bondage needs. Easy to clean, water resistant, up to 1,100 pounds of weight load, and in a wide array of beautiful, vibrant colors, Knothead Nylon will slake your rope desires. At checkout, put in discount code RORY10 for 10% off.
Alright, so when does tying up objects become macrame? I'm sure is the question you were probably thinking. Well, macrame is a lot more intricate when it comes to specific just knotwork, knotting pattern to create wonderful designs. Obviously, rope bondage, kimbaku, shibari suspension is vastly different than macrame, but when you start doing it on an object, what separates the two? Well, the main thing is you're using shibari, kimbaku, rope bondage, what have you, techniques on these objects. You're not using macrame techniques, you're using bondage techniques on an object to create a design or create some webbing. And the fun thing about it is the free form, the expression you get to do with it. Because obviously these objects are not alive. And thus you use different techniques, different kinds of tightness, but it does teach you something fun, and that is the ability to do some certain knot work. It lets you find how you like to express design. You get to explore a few hitches and knots that you may like, that you haven't gotten the chance to explore on a human, mostly because one, you don't have a model and don't want to do it on yourself, and two, it's a little bit of a safer environment, seeing how there's no lethality involved with it most of the time. I don't know what you're doing with the object after you have it tied up. I'm just picturing some kind of flail. Don't do that. Unless it's with zombies, then I totally suggest you do that. So what am I going to show you? Nothing specific. I'll tie up two objects, both of which are just going to be off the top of my head. I have not planned any of these, so that'll be a nice insight as to what I'm doing. One of which I think I might have somewhat design-centric, and the other one will just be random ties and webbing. So, let's just get started. I have a chair. I'm not bragging, I'm just saying this is the first object that I'm working with. Probably something I do in the design way. Play around, make something fun. It's got a lot of angles, obviously, but it's got a lot of spots where I can go into and out of. Of course, with having 4 legs, it has a lot of potential to create something awesome. So let's just go with it. So I need a starting area, and I think I might go with the top of the chair here. And there's a spot right here where it is too short for the rope to go through this, so I actually might have a rope, the tail ends go on either side of it. Pull those through until I find the bite. Hello, bite, how are you? And what I'm gonna do is create a girth hitch by going through there. Now, a girth hitch is a pretty standard way to start a lot of things, especially when it comes to tying up inanimate objects. But you can start with the tail ends of the rope and knotting them, securing them in place with a cinching knot around one small area, and then just kind of going from there. Maybe one end, so you can go from one end to the other and back around, creating a webbing pattern, constantly creating cross tension on itself. I don't think I'm going to do that with this one. This one might be a little bit more stylized. You know what we could actually do is create a hishi going down the middle of it that'll be relatively suspended, because if we go from the bottom part of the seat right here to the top of the chair, that leaves a lot of space inside of here, and then we can actually do something fun with that, probably. So let's just go with it. And I'll begin by doing overhand knots to create the hishi part of it, the diamond dress. It's sort of nerve-wracking picking something off the top of my head to go with, because like I have to create something cool for you guys and I have not planned anything. So it's a little nerve-wracking, what I may create could be a mess, but hey, that's a part of the process. That's a part of learning. So I'm creating these overhand knots because we're gonna have other ropes, grab them open, create the diamond shape. Overhand knots are some of the most simple knots that we will ever do in any kind of rope bondage. Take it, it will cross over itself, creating a loop, and then you just kind of go through that loop. Same thing you would do to close a balloon or what have you. I think I'll get one more in there for good measure. It might not actually end up being a diamond, but you know what? It'll be there, just in case we need to. Because often when we're pulling this, you can see how it raises up. So sometimes it's better to have more room. But yet again, that's also the process. So if we look at it now, this will be coming down this way, and I'll go underneath. Alright, off the top of my head, this is weird. So we're gonna go underneath, and we'll come up this way. Now the great thing about the inanimate objects is that they don't have any blood flow or nerves most of the time. You gotta watch out for those mimics though, they'll get ya. If it feels warm, it's either been in the sun or it's about to eat you, so watch out. Putting my D&D mimic skepticism aside, you can create a lot of tension, and that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna create a lot of tension. This is gonna be tight, and we can always pull it up tight. There we are. I was just about to ask the chair if the pressure was okay. Ugh. I mean, that's a good thing to get into. If you want to try doing that, by all means, do that. Chair, how's the pressure? Well, this is my brain knowing me, it'll talk back. Alright, so we're gonna go in here and out. That seems a little bit awkward if we pull out. You know what? We gotta do cross tension on ourselves. So I want this to stay up. And if I go around this way, like you normally would with the he-she, this is gonna get pulled down to the bottom right here. Let me get closer. So problem one that I've run into is that in order to create the diamond part of this he-she, I need to go around like that to pull those apart. However, as I'm sure you could see, as soon as I pull down, it's pushing these areas that are trying to separate it down as well. So how do I get around that? Well, if I take one side of it and bring it up, I can actually put cross tension on itself. So if I go underneath that, that means I'm now putting tension on itself. So if we pull it from the bottom and I go out that way and I pull this way, this is creating its own tension on top of itself, making it so it's not going to go down this way. The new tension is going this way. Ah, cross tension, it's a beautiful thing. So I just anchored it over here. If you need to know how anchors work, I've created a video on how to make anchors. So I'll do the same thing with this side, right? This is the part that we're going to create its own cross tension on itself by going underneath it. Wonderful. Tighten that up, pull from this area, which is the main part of the body, and then I can pull it out this way and around the back of the chair. Now we have a design right here. It looks cool, but it's also the necessary cross tension in order to create the diamond shape. Haha. So what do we do now? We're just gonna cross over in the back and then towards the front to do more he-she right here. All right, we're gonna tighten that up something fierce and then come around toward the front again. Now I have this thing in the backdrop right here, as well as my he-she karada. So let's work with this backdrop. We got something there, let's work with it. Now what we can do is a crossover hitch. So create a crossover hitch. So come this way, create a crossover hitch, go underneath, create the diamond part, back down, another crossover hitch. In my mind, it could be a cool design. Thank you for your confidence. And we'll just work with it. I need to create a whole tension right here. I'm gonna wrap that around my hand a little bit to make sure that I don't lose that tension. So I will create a crossover hitch. So I'll take that rope that's in the backdrop right now, I'm going to cross over it, underneath, over myself, and then back towards the front. Usually I would put this rope in my mouth, but I need to be able to tell you about things. Now because tension, I'm trying to show you a few things, but because tension is kind of really important for what I'm doing right now, I'm going to do it and then show you what I ended up thinking of. So if you look at what I've done here, I've used this backdrop rope as a place to put crossover hitches. The crossover hitch came from the side of the chair, went over, towards the middle, or down, under, over, under. So towards the middle and then towards the outside. This creates this creates 3 layers of friction and counter tension. That way when I grab this diamond and then come back around and go in the opposite direction, as you can see, these two are mirroring each other. And once I come back this way, it doesn't matter how loose this will be right here. It's going to hold the same tension right here because it's stuck in place with the friction and cross tension. So I did that on both sides. Cool. Well, now I'm just gonna go ahead and do that on the ones below it as well, until I start creating design down the chair. Based off the tension of the chair, as you will soon see, the backdrop rope right here, I can no longer use that and bring it forward when coming to grab the hishi from right here. So we're gonna have to do something new. We've created enough pattern on it to begin with, but we have to create something new. However, I did run out of rope. And if we observe the back, I created some square knottage right here. Now when I grab the new rope, I'm gonna create a loop, reach into it, go around, and create a little girth hitch right there. I'm going to attach that below the knottage right there. And actually, you know what I could end up doing is just go beneath it, go around either side of it, and do the girth hitch that way, much like we did with up top. Now I'm just going to continue fiddling around. So I already have the other rope attached to the back like I just showed you. And I'm actually going to go beneath the seat area so I have the back legs keeping it in place, because it's coming up in the corner right where the leg meets the seat, which actually gives me the appropriate leverage to open up this diamond. Open that up, cross over from underneath, come back around toward the front, and I guess I can actually get this last diamond open. So let's do that. Once again, I had the urge to ask the chair how the pressure was. That is an odd sensation, let me tell you. Open that up. I'm gonna go from below. So now in front of the seat, and the front legs will now keep these ropes in place, and then I'm just gonna, I don't know, weave up this way perhaps? I'll find out. There is no real homework rope for what we're doing right now. If you think about it, the entire design in a way is homework rope. I think we've covered a fair bit. I'm going to fiddle around with the rest of my rope about 4 or 5 feet and show you what I end up with. It is a chair no more. It is a work of art and expression. So, where do we go? What did I do? So, we opened up that diamond, went underneath and around the leg in order to gain a bit of cross tension, and then we followed with crossover hitches, going up until it went behind this area right here, this open area. It went behind and around to this area where it started a crossover hitch, going up, closing some of these loops areas, and up here to create a clove hitch. Basically trying to frame, once again, what we created inside here. Framing what we did inside here. Which ends up creating this fun, cool design. That is quite sturdy. Very tight. Let's look at the back real quick. When the clove hitch came back down, it kind of weaved in and out of the crossovers in the back and finished with 2 little double coin knots and a square in the back, or a surgeon's knot in the back, which gives it its own little flair. It has its own appeal, its own silhouette from different angles, and I think that's what makes it fun, tying up objects, is that you can create different silhouettes, different forms than what you usually could with a human being. I mean, granted, you could also pretzel a human being and put them into weird different positions, but it's also good to get practice with that sort of thing on an object. And an object has less give, which really helps you appreciate, understand, and learn to work with cross tension. Skin has a little bit of give. It'll dig into it and hold the ropes for you sometimes. Something like this, a very hard surface, it's not going to give you any leniency. You have to make sure that your tension is good. That's what I like about doing a little bit of rope bondage technique on inanimate objects, because it really helps you appreciate, understand, and know cross tension and friction. Good. You've tied up a chair, but they're relatively square. Yes, there is. Something with roundness to it. I know, great word. I'm an author. But if you can grab something with, let's say, curves to it, you'll be able to get a greater understanding of how cross-tension works, especially with something that is round. It's basically increasing the difficulty. Now, if there was homework rope, this would probably be it. Tying up something with curves. Let me show you what I end up doing with this. And this is what I came up with for the guitar. Now, the lines that are on here are solid. They're being held in place by a bunch of cross tension going one way and the other. It's actually rather hectic, but they're solid, and that's what's important about it. Trying to figure out where and how to create that cross tension to turn curved and rounded areas into solid pivot points, into areas that are not in danger of coming loose and undoing itself. This little area right here looks like it's about to fall down this way, but behind it, there's cross tension pulling down on it this way, that's keeping it in place. And then obviously I had to do some nice weave work up the fretboard. As a musician myself, this reminds me of some of the systematic and mathematical parts of music, which is the fretboard, which is why it's in a weave. It is symmetrical and beautiful. Whereas down here on this part of the guitar, the part that creates the resonance, the part that has the strumming is a little bit more wild, which is why it has a little bit more asymmetrical webbing going in and out of it. Like I said, it's an expression of how these things make you feel. Your homework rope, try and tie up something rounded as well. Well, hey, I hope you had as much fun learning from those tutorials as we did teaching them to you. The joys of tying things up. Yes, Marie currently is, but she has the dexterity score of a very tired sloth, so I doubt she'll get them. Likely. She may be able to lure them, but then they're gone as soon as they see the ropes. They know better. Marie has a past. Well, I would be remiss if I did not bring up my other lovely sponsors for today, the wonderful people over at Patreon. That's patreon.com/Rory's Brainworks, just like this YouTube channel. They are my rope vanguard, my colonizers of dreams. And without them, these ropey endeavors would be way harder to accomplish. Thank you for spending your time with me. Be sure to like this video, subscribe to this madness, and comment down below what kind of rope bondage things you would like us to teach you. As always, I'm Rory. This is our brain. I'm fairly certain it works. Be safe and go create some art.